We have a warehouse in Japan, have all these equipments, and just basically B2C, right? Shipping all these like coffee equipments, Japanese coffee equipments around the world. And it's really humbling to people approach me and say for example, like expos or just randomly when I go to maybe a coffee shop overseas, and they tell me, well, I've started coffee because of Kurasu. I got my first dripper through Kurasu. I got my first origami. That's how I got into, coffee, brewing coffee at home.
If the content we bring you on the podcast has helped you with your business or your career and you're looking for a way to financially support the independent production of this podcast, you can do that for as little as a few dollars a month by backing us on Patreon or becoming a paid subscriber on our YouTube channel. Another way to support us and continue your learning is to purchase one of our on-demand workshops available on our website, mapitforward.coffee/workshops. Check the show notes for links, and as always, thanks for the support. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar. This is episode 1 of a brand new 5-part series with Yozo Otsuki from Kurasu, Japan. Or actually, we can't just say it's from Japan now because it's growing all over the world. But Yozo-san, welcome to the podcast. I'm deeply honored to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Lee. The honor is totally mine. I've been an avid listener to your podcasts. A lot of people that I respect, and a lot of my friends have been on the podcast. And you're definitely doing something that is necessary, especially in this time, right, in the coffee industry. And I'm so grateful for you to have educated myself, and to the different facets of what's happening in the coffee industry. So. Yeah, just very honored to be here, and I hope that I can sort of share some of my insights and add a bit of value to Japan and Asia in general. I know that you haven't had too many, guests from Asia or Japan at least. So yeah, I hope that this will be, I will be the first of many, because this is really interesting market, in Japan and in all of Asia right now. So I just hope that I can add some insights and add some value to your listeners.
Thank you for your beautiful words. I have the way I found out about you makes my heart so happy, and I want to credit you and the team at Kurasu here in Dubai for the best coffee I've had in Dubai.
Wow!
Twice.
Thank you. Wow.
So it's and that was like how I found out about the brand here in Dubai, and we're going to explore that through this series.
Sure.
But before we do that, I would like to make an announcement to everybody, and I'm so glad that I get to make this announcement while you're on the podcast. Yeah. So we recently launched Map It Forward Middle East. So this podcast, the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, is our global podcast. We talk about markets, and we talk about business, and we talk about supply chain and stuff like that. And I live here in the Middle East, and we have a podcast here now that's specifically for the Middle East market. And in Busan last year, I got approached by a wonderful human. Shout out to Kesuke-san, who came up to me, and he just was really, really open and like just a really dedicated coffee professional. And he said to me, listen, like, I would love to have a conversation with you about a few things. And, I gave him my card. He contacted me, and he said to me, listen, I think that the people in Japan really need to understand what you're talking about on your podcast. Could I volunteer my time to translate the podcast into Japanese? I don't want any money for this. I just want to do this for the people of Japan in the coffee industry, because I think that we need this information. And so over the last, let's say 6 or 7 months, Kesuke-san and I have been talking about actually not doing that for free long term. This is a something that we have decided we would like to turn into something and test and see if the Japanese market would be interested. So we are announcing today that we are launching Maple Forward Japan. And that is going to be a whole ecosystem unto itself that is going to start with select series that will be translated into Japanese with its own social media account and its own email and its own landing page on our website. Keisuke-san is going to be responsible for making sure those translations are correct. There will be up on our YouTube channel with the Japanese translations done correctly. And that will happen. We will release a new series every 2 weeks. And Keisuke-san is the one who picked the series. He said, these are the ones I think that would be best for our community. So this is really a beautiful partnership where he has dedicated his time, and I'm talking lots of hours, to making sure that this is something that his community has access to. And I'm thrilled to be doing this with him. And so if you are interested, you can go to our social media, which is Mapper for Japan on Instagram, and we will also have a landing page on our website, which will be mapperforward.coffee/Japan. And our commitment, and there will be more things coming in different parts of the world. We're talking with other people. This is where we're trialing things. If we can find a way to get this information to communities. Yozo-san, you were talking about how you had told me that you get your staff to listen to the podcast to help get them informed. We want to make it easier. We don't want language to be a barrier to getting the information. But also, I can't speak Japanese. I wish I could.
It's a difficult language for sure. Yeah.
I'm still working on the Arabic side of things. So, so this is the one way that we can make sure that we're we're lowering the barrier to people around the globe getting access to this not because of Mapper Forward, but because of dedicated members of our community that have said, I would like to do this. And the intention is that we can find a way to put a business model behind it so that Keisuke is not doing this for free. We want to find a way so that we can pay him what's necessary to get this done. So that's going to evolve over time, but we're trialing this for 3 months. Hopefully the idea is after that we move it into Mapper Forward Latin America, Mapper Forward Brazil, Mapper Forward Indonesia, Mapper Forward China, all of these different things. But we're starting with Mapper Forward Japan after Middle East because it wasn't led by me. I wish I was the one who was smart enough to have this idea. This is 100% the initiative of Keisuke. So credit where credit is due, and he is doing a wonderful thing for the Japanese coffee community. I'm proud to be partnering with him on doing this, and he is a friend of yours, and he is the one who connected us. So, and the way that happened, folks, is a really fun story. I happened to see people in Dubai here posting about this new place, Kurasu. And I'm like, everyone's posting about it. I've got to go check this place out. And it's gorgeous, but gorgeous is not unusual in Dubai, right? It's table stakes here. And so I go there with my dear, dear sister, Alana Chama, and we go in there and it was super clear to me that the people, David and Val, and Amin, who are running the place, but Amin wasn't there. But David and Val didn't know who I was, and they couldn't do enough to make sure there wasn't any tables available. They couldn't do enough to make sure I was comfortable, and we had a table to sit at. I'm like, this is great. This is fantastic. This is not typical. So we sit down and the coffees come, and the coffees are mind-blowingly good. And it is a lot for me to say that. And I'm like, wait, what is going on here? So I get up and I go and talk to David, and I'm like, listen, I have a podcast and we're about to go in a different direction for the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you should talk to Yozo, the guy who founded this. From that day on, 4 separate people, without me saying anything, had contacted
Wow.
me and said, "You know who you should have on the podcast? There's this brand in Japan. You
Yeah.
should have a conversation with Yozo." And
Mm.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? How is the universe making this happen? And then I said to Kesuke, I'm like, look, everyone's telling me I need to have a conversation with
Mm.
Yozo-san, but nobody's introducing me. He's like, he's one of my dear friends. Can
Yes.
I introduce you? So that's how that happened. And I've been back since, and I can say I had my first best coffee here and my second
Mhm.
best coffee here.
Mhm.
At Kurasu, my third best was at Raw. So
Mhm.
it was a delight to be
Mhm.
pleasantly surprised and to have the staff there, like, not like it was table stakes for them to serve great
Mhm.
coffee. Their
Mhm.
expectation was, it wasn't as though they made 15 coffees and served it to me.
Yeah.
They served me the coffee that they made. And so
Yeah.
as somebody who drinks coffee in a lot of different places, it's always fantastic to find places where you're proud to take people.
Yeah.
So I say all of that to say thank you for what you're doing. And congratulations to your team here in Dubai.
Mhm.
I am getting Dave and Val on the podcast for the Middle
Yeah.
East to talk about that,
Mhm.
which is going to be great. But in this series, we're going to be talking about starting, growing, and expanding a Japanese coffee brand.
Mhm.
And I'm excited about the fact that this is the first the first conversation that we're going to have exploring the region, because we haven't done a good enough job on this podcast of representing different brands from all around Asia.
Sure.
And so, we do around 50 series a year. I want to make sure that at least 10 to 15% of that content is coming out of Asia moving forward, which is going to be really exciting because Asia's a market that's popping in a massive way,
Yeah.
in a way that's almost like, yeah, you can go and do what you want to do over there in the West.
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
doing it our way. And
Mhm.
it's really exciting. And shamefully, I haven't been to Japan yet. You've given me great reason to come to Japan,
Please,
I have
please,
to
please,
say.
and Keisuke as well, of course.
Yeah, as well, of
Yes.
course, of
Yes.
course. So I think the best place for us to start
Mm.
this conversation is for you to tell people about Kurasu. And then what we're going to do is talk about how the Japanese coffee industry is unique amongst other markets. Everybody that I have spoken to about you coming on the podcast and about Japan, they're like, there's nothing like it. There's no market
Mhm.
in the world that exists like the Japanese coffee market. So
Mhm.
tell us about you and Kurasu, and
Okay.
then we will talk about Japan.
All right. Of course. So I guess I'll just start off quickly by explaining a bit about myself and Kurasu, how we started. So I was born here in Kyoto, so we're in Kyoto now. But I lived in bits and pieces of different parts of the world. I grew up in New York, actually, in Manhattan.
Oh,
Yeah. And then that's where the English comes from. Yeah.
okay.
So, and then moved back to Kyoto. And then from there, from high school, lived in different cities in Canada. Um, Graduated university, University of Waterloo, which is near Toronto.
What did you
Um,
study?
I studied economics. So
Nice.
after studying economics, I actually went into finance. I started working at an investment bank in Tokyo, just right smack in the middle of the financial crisis, 2008 is when I
I can't
started.
see you as a finance bro.
Well, at the time, I think I was just really fascinated by economics in general, in terms of like the
Ah,
history of it, and in terms of the academics
mm,
of it, and economics sort of it ties in with so many things throughout history,
hmm
right? And I was always fascinated by that, and thinking of I didn't really know what I wanted to do at the time, and it
mm,
just the natural sort of progression where everyone in terms of my peers were going to, it was either finance or consulting or
mm.
tech. So yeah, I was fortunate to just I basically did maybe 3 interviews, and I was accepted into where I was accepted. So my job hunt was over in a day. So, and
Nice.
again, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so they offered me, so I was like, okay, I'll just go. And that
Trust
was
the
sort of the
universe.
yeah, that was the premise behind started working in finance. But again, it was a really bad time, 2008,
Mhm.
right after I joined. Lehman crashed, Lehman
Yeah.
failed, and sort of everything sort of started happening. Occupy Wall Street, all these kind of things, and it really sort of went against what sort of my beliefs, right, and what I
Which
valued.
part of it? Which part of it? The
Mm,
crash, the what led to it?
just yeah, just I feel like you get these stories. I think you get these stories and anecdotes a lot where when you are working in the corporate environment, right? Everyone
Mm.
around you, you're like your peers, they're they're just you know they're not evil,
People.
right? They're
They're,
yeah,
they're, they're
exactly,
just regular
exactly,
people.
exactly. But in the midst of sort of the system, I guess, or the machine of it, we were. So I worked at Goldman Sachs. So we were
Oh.
smack down in the middle of it. Of course, our CEO was at Congress like every single day,
Hmm.
and we were sort of like similar to I guess, the tech bros, the IT industry now. Whereas we were like the company itself was, and the finance industry as a whole was demonized,
Mm.
and I guess justifiably so, in a sense. And just again, I was more like an academic person. I was just fascinated by just in general, like how economics affects everything, right? So I was very
Hmm.
interested in, you know, um, I was very attuned uh, to reading a lot of the material of what was happening, and reading a lot of the comments, and reading a lot of the editorials, I guess,
Mm.
of what was happening. And yeah, it just didn't really sit right with me, being in sort of the belly of the beast
Hmm.
in a way. And yeah, just and in general, of course, the company, I guess, vibe, you could say, was not the best, right? We were the
Mm.
whole industry was sort of tanking in a way. And again, we were sort of there was a lot of scrutiny to everyone. I still remember we had a training in New York, and one of the things that we were told is like, don't tell anyone that you worked for Goldman, like outside, when you go outside, or like don't go out to bars, or don't go out to, like, public spaces, and and yeah, again, tell anyone that you're working for the company, right?
This
Because
is at the time of the collapse.
yeah, exactly. So this was probably like 2009-ish, right? So this is right smack in the middle. So yeah, all those things combined, and then of course, just being in the corporate environment, I never really saw myself just doing that for a prolonged period of time.
Mm.
My all my fam I was basically the first person in my family to work in a corporate environment, right? My dad is a painter. My dad's an artist. My mom
Wow.
is she oh, and yeah, so this is part of the story. But my mom and dad both owned kisatens, which means coffee houses. It's literally coffee houses in
No
Japanese.
way.
So they own their own jazz kisatens, which was kind of synonymous with the time. Um, Sort of like the sound bars that you see, a
Yeah.
revival today. Um, they own those kind of shops in their late 20s. So they're more entrepreneurial, they're more sort of artistic, um, those type of parents. But yeah, I was sort of like the odd one out. But I guess
Mm.
sort of that in my blood, that was never in my blood. Um, being from that family. And yeah, I felt like I really wanted to try something new, try something entrepreneurial, just step out of the mold. And so I did work for close to 3 years at Goldman, but I quit, and and then we moved to Sydney, right? Yeah, so that's when the Sydney move came in, and my partner at the time, we were both working at the same company, and she got the job transferred to the Sydney office, and
Okay.
I was sort of still trying to figure out what I wanted to do for myself. And but yeah, I've never been to I had never been to Australia, but I thought, hey, why not? So we moved to Sydney, and then that was sort of when I really, you know, tried to switch gears and try to do something, yeah, something entrepreneurial, something for myself. And I was just trying to think of different ways I can do that. And um, what I ended up doing was I've always wanted because so like I mentioned, I've lived in different places around the world, but of course Japan is my heritage. I love, Japanese sort of culture and craftsmanship and designs. I've always loved that part of that aspect of Japan. So I thought, why not try to connect, Japanese. What I didn't know what at that time, but anything Japanese to sort of Australia or Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
So my initial idea was importing sort of designer products, homewares, so ceramics, textiles, those kind of things, importing that into Australia, started setting up an online store and selling it. And Kurasu, so that's when I came up with the name Kurasu as well. Kurasu actually means in Japanese literally to live or like lifestyle.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So I wanted to make like a lifestyle lifeware store kind of homeware store. That's how it all started. And Japanese, those kind of homeware stores in Japan, there's always going to be like pour over equipments because that's
Mm-hmm.
drip coffee is sort of synonymous with kitchenware, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've had a selection of drippers and kettles that I brought in, and that really organically started to really through word of mouth start to spread. A lot of people started buying those strippers in Australia and also outside of Australia as well. And I guess this is sort of 2012, 2013, and this is sort of when I guess the pour over movement for drip coffee was starting to get,
Mm-hmm.
traction. Obviously, Australia is a heavy espresso based culture, but
Mm-hmm.
people are starting to get into single origin coffees, filter coffees. And but Hario was the only brand that was available. So what I would do is import Kalita, import in origami, import in, other Japanese strippers and kettles and those sort of equipments. And yeah, again, that because of I guess the timing and the movement and and the traction and for myself because I've always loved coffee
Mm-hmm.
personally. I
Mm-hmm.
never really knew how to connect that um to work for or business. But that's sort of when it's all started to connect for me. Okay. Coffee, Japan, coffee equipments, and yeah, and we started to shift. I started to shift away from all the other um, homewares and really start to shift into just doing coffee equipments at Kurasu. So that's sort of how we grew. And I guess because of that, still, I think a lot of people still know us for coffee equipments, Japanese coffee
Mm-hmm.
equipments, because again, we were one of the first to have these equipments available overseas. Nowadays, Origami and all those brands are pretty readily available, especially in the bigger markets. But at the time, they didn't have distributionship or anything. And we were basically the only site that catered towards people outside of Japan, English speaking website, English sort of website, English speaking customer support, shipping directly to customers anywhere in the world. So yeah, we have a warehouse in Japan, have all these equipments, and just basically B2C, right? Shipping all these like coffee
Mm-hmm.
equipments, Japanese coffee equipments around the world. And yeah, it's really it's really humbling to people approach me in say for example like expos
Yeah.
or just randomly when I go to maybe a coffee shop overseas, and yeah, they tell me, well, I've started coffee because of Kurasu. That I got my first dripper through Kurasu. I got my first origami. That's how I got into, coffee, brewing coffee at home. So um yeah, I think
How does
that's
that feel
really
for you as after what
it's
you've built?
yeah, yeah. It no, like I said, it's super humbling, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that definitely connects with what we're going to be talking later with uh, Kurasu being able to expand outside of
Mm,
Japan as well, because I feel like a lot of people have that sort of positive, connection relationship with Kurasu as a brand. And yeah, we're I'm really happy to have Kurasu be part of a lot of people's coffee journeys, right? Um,
I mean,
yeah.
it's beautiful to watch people have such a lovely response to something that's not pretending.
Mm,
We've been in coffee, like I come from the corporate world as well.
mhm.
So I was a senior business analyst and project manager at IBM for 8 years.
Yeah.
And so I left that environment for the same reason that you left it, in the
Mm,
sense that uh, I could do this and I enjoyed the work per se,
yeah.
but the environment was, it didn't sit right in my soul. Being
Mm,
in an environment where there's good people there, but collectively, when you're working
yeah.
towards something that you don't believe in or whatever, you can't be in that environment.
Mm,
And so then a lot of people like us come into coffee and we try and build things. And what I find in coffee is that because it's actually so much harder than what people anticipate it's going to be, and we are going to talk about in this series, people end up doing things that they wouldn't normally do, like that were against the reason that they came into coffee or against the reason that they left the corporate environment. And then they come into business in our industry and they're like, fuck, like now I have to do that thing that I didn't think I wanted to do, but I've got to
yeah.
do it because I've got to make payroll, or I've got to build the business, or I've got investors, or blah, blah, blah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I see far too many brands have to sell out. That's what people think is selling out,
Mm,
right? And then I look at a brand like Kurasu.
mm,
And I think for somebody like me who I don't like the fakeness of things,
mm,
I'm really turned off and disgusted and I'm always looking for it. Like, what are you pretending about?
mm,
And there are some things that I can make like these adjustments for and be like, I get it. There's not enough staff because the business has to adjust. Like wages have just gone up. I get it. Service is going to be slow. I'm fine with that. But when you're pretending and you're lying to your customers, I
mm,
get this like horrible taste in my mouth about what that brand is going to turn into, because you can see they've got a whole bunch of money behind them and they're going to go global and it's marketing that's going to get them there, right?
yeah. Yeah.
The one thing I loved about Kurasu, I loved many things about Kurasu. The thing I enjoyed the most was I had a real experience. And then when I tried to find out from people who know you what you're like, everybody had wonderful things to say. The second I thought about, like, the second, Felipe was a fantastic one. Felipe and Angel. And like, I went to Kurasu and they were like, oh my God, you have to have Yozo-san on the podcast. You have to have him on the
Yeah.
podcast, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're two guys I
Yeah.
have a lot of respect for.
Mhm.
The thing is that when it's so easy to be in a situation where people see a brand like Kurasu
Mhm.
and they want to run to it to invest in it or to blow it up all over the world or to do something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When I look at what you've done, I'm so excited about the fact that you're not trying to trick me.
Mm, mm,
You're not using gimmicky anything to trick me into wanting to be a part of what you're doing.
mhm,
The coffee's out of this world good.
mhm,
The experience itself is very inviting and welcoming and unpretentious,
mm,
but also stunning. And the staff genuinely cared what my
Mm.
experience was like.
Mhm.
And then I look online and I see I use Kurasu in my consulting and in our
Mm.
mastermind groups as one of there's probably 10 brands that I keep referring back to. Since I found what you guys are doing, I use it as an example to say to people, listen, build something beautiful, build something that is
Mm.
elite, but don't be fucking pretentious about it. Don't
Mm.
try and trick people. This is an example of a brand that's not trying to trick you.
You, you.
And then they would be like, okay, so have him on the podcast so that we can see if he's lying or not.
No, yeah,
So
thank you. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah.
you're welcome.
I would definitely, there's a few things that come to mind. First of all, for Dubai, for example,
Yeah.
I think we had so much, actually had a lot of opportunities to come to
Mm.
Dubai, as you can imagine,
As is
um,
obvious after seeing it, as is obvious.
and but yeah, again, it wouldn't have been the right way,
Yeah.
right? And then, like you mentioned, David and Val, and they don't have any experience in coffee,
No.
right?
They
And
come
they're
from
not.
golf, right?
Yeah, they're yeah,
He's
they have, yeah, they run the golf business. But and they're not like they're not, the ultra rich,
yeah,
or investor type people. They're just ordinary, um
good people.
yeah, good people, but just someone that it just really felt right that, um at the end of the day, like Dubai, um and we've been transparent about this through, talking with other people as well. Dubai was very, we spent a lot. I probably spent the most time on Dubai out of all of the shops, right? Because of course, because of the different environment, and because, um and again, David knows this because David doesn't have experience in coffee, right? So,
Mm.
and or running a coffee shop. So there was a lot of support that we had to, um and a lot of effort that we had to put in. But at the end of the day, it was the right decision, right? Because,
Yeah.
um, that's the type of people that it has to feel right. The partnership has to feel right. The people that are running it and they have to understand, what Kurasu stands for, and the one of the reasons why we decided to work with them was they, um, you know, they flew into Japan. They flew into Kyoto, right away, right after we started having the conversation. Really, we said to them, if this were to move forward, you really have to experience not just Kurasu but Kyoto as a city, because and
Mm.
Japan, because sort of that's where our ethos, that's where our values come from, right? This city is how we are able to build the Kurasu brand. So, and then right after they came here and they sort of immersed themselves in our shops and in the city, and I felt that they really understood,
Mm.
what the city was about. So, and that was the reason why we decided to move forward with them. So it's not, again, it's not about how much money you have, or it's not about sort of how much, like you said, the flashiness of the shop, or how much of a bang that you can make, but it's really about, um really trying to have the values that we have in different cities and different countries, and also long-term relationships, and the brand being sustainable. Sustainable is a word that gets thrown around so much
Hmm.
in coffee, but, I think being a building and I think it really is something that, needs to be spoken more in business as well. Be
Yeah.
having a sustainable business, right? And we felt that was sort of, it will be slow and steady, and that's sort of how we want, right? And, yeah, that, I guess that's sort of where, we'll talk about it more, but sort of the Japanese, I guess, a little bit more about the Japanese mindset comes in to play. But I would also say, like, we understand, and I understand, how we are in such a very fortunate, very privileged situation.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I myself and my team worked so hard to build Kurasu, but um, it's it's based on the foundation of of our predecessors. Japan, as the history and the culture as a whole, or the country, the perception that people have about Japan, about sort of the craftsmanship and sort of the
Mm.
discipline and um, all the sort of, I guess, positive images that people have about Japan, especially post COVID, I think as well. And I think it was always there, but because there's been such an influx of people coming into Japan and sort of experiencing Japan post COVID, I think that, I guess, the perception of Japan has become so um, positive in a lot of people's
Mm-hmm.
minds. Yeah, so I think we are definitely and of course we try to entail that as Kurasu, but I think we're definitely um, very, just the timing wise, we're just very fortunate to be in the situation and have people um, have a very positive sort
Yeah.
um, of outlook of Japan. And I think to myself, we can have the exact same brand, we can have the exact same coffee, everything, or designs and everything. But if we were from, dare I say, like Ethiopia, right,
Right.
which is the birthplace of coffee, and that
Mm-hmm.
should be synonymous with, a positive sort of, perception of coffee, but we would not have been where we are now, right? Just because of, again, the
Oh,
perception that
yeah.
people have.
Or even
So
10 years ago, even
yeah,
having done it
yeah,
10 years earlier,
exactly.
right? Well, why don't we wrap this episode up here?
Sure.
Because that's where I want to,
Yeah.
folks, heads up. Anyone who thinks that the conversation, this series is going to be 15 minutes every episode, skip ahead. Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. This has already gone for almost 40 minutes. So just bear in mind, I promise the conversations are going to be delicious, but you're not going to have a conversation between Yozo and I, and it's going to be 15 minutes. It's just not going to happen. So join us for the next episode. We're going to talk about actually the Japanese culture and the Japanese coffee culture. So join us for that. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.